cage silent when the Uber drops me at Zora's. I thank the driver and rate him 5 stars and tip him a tenner. What a nice guy, I think. What a goddamn human being. It's 4 below, and the frosted pavement outside Zora's live-workplace in Catford is scintillating like a million tiny stars. I can hardly tear my eyes away to find the doorbell. It's so beautiful. A kind of exquisite fractalism. The tiny ice crystals reflecting the unimaginably massive, super hot balls of gas billions of miles away. Fuck! I shake my head like a cat with a flea collar. I am so sick of this wonderstruck hippie bullshit. This is not how I want to feel. And it's all Zora's fault. I need more of the bad stuff, and Zora's the only one I know with a solid connection. I press the button again. Far off, upstairs in her echoing studio, Mike Oldfield's tubular bells bong out. I hammer the door for good measure. Could she still be asleep? Nah, it's only 3. Probably dropped a raven an hour or 2 ago and is working on the last piece for her Tate Modern show next month. She let slip at Gail's opening last week that the new work was going to be darker than a black hole. I know what that means. It means she's still got some pills left, and I need them now. A suspicious dark brown eye emerges from the spy hole. Uber Eats, I say. Worth a try. First comes the existential despair, then the nihilistic fury, then the soul scream, then the munchies. She'll probably be at the munchies stage by now. The eye narrows with a fierce craving. Excuse me. Clunk, rattle, beep of bolts, chains, alarm. There's a lot of valuable art in Zora's place right now, but also she's always been a little bit paranoid. Taylor! What the? Slowly I step out of the freezing night into her hallway, making gentle, pacifying gestures. If she's still riding the soul scream, violence is entirely possible, and she's not a small woman. Sorry, false pretenses, I know. I just couldn't think what else to do. Have a kip like the rest of the world, she snaps. Except you. Yeah, I'm working, and unless it's in your backpack, you haven't brought any Vietnamese food, so what the hell are you doing here? Her pupils are like poppy seeds. She's been working all right. You know what I'm doing here, Zora. She recoils like I've turned into a critic from the Telegraph. Tay, no, come on. I thought you quit. My eyebrows shoot up. All artists are liars and hypocrites, obviously, but this is rich. I thought you did. When we ran out of the first batch? Or did we? Now she looks suitably shamed. Look, it's complicated, okay? It's just this last piece. I was never happy with it. Not real enough, you know? Too superficial, too frivolous. It looks bloody stupid compared to the rest of the show. Like a bouncy castle in a cemetery or something. I had to go back to it, get it right. So you've still got some. I knew it. She huffs, flips up the bag of my bag in an instinctive, drug-driven hunt for snacks. You better come up. The first time I did agony, I was not expecting much. Mild sense of depression, a general surge of misanthropy, a slight down tweak in my general mood. Nothing dramatic, maybe a Sunday tea time level of ennui and misery. Even the pills had the appearance of a knowing 90s joke. Instead of a dove embossed on a white circle, they had a tiny raven stamped on a black one. I'd snorted. A raven for the ex-raver? So goth. So basic. It looks like a charcoal supplement, I told Zora, who was watching me with wry anticipation. Don't feel like one, she said dryly. Opioids and some hallucinogenics aside, most drugs aren't all that. Rumors of their effectiveness are nearly always exaggerated. 4 hours of ugly sobbing at my reflection in the bedroom mirror, however, changed my mind. Tactfully, Zora had locked all the windows and cleared away all the sharp objects and most of the blunt ones, leaving only my white futon, an A3 sketchbook, and a packet of crayons. She knew the drill. I resurfaced to discover, to my relief, that the world and universe was not quite the bleak, shrieking vortex of futility I'd just been hurled into. Also that I, probably, wasn't the worst and most despicable creature to ever crawl across it like a misshapen, misbegotten, and deservedly unloved baby slug. In short, I no longer had the mindset of a depressed 15-year-old, or at least the depressed 15-year-old I and many of my artist friends had once been. Also, I was really hungry. It was quite the maiden voyage, not least because it turned out that the Crayola self-portrait I'd somehow scribbled while at the fathomless bottom of my a-hole, sorry, yeah, I know, but that is what the users call it, was the best thing I had done in years. Zora had wandered over, wordlessly fed me 3 slices of pizza, and then examined the sketch. Then she nodded and glanced at me. Told you I'd work. At first glance, the image was almost pretty. An abstract storm of slashing lines and kid-friendly rainbow hues. But the longer you looked, the more the agonized face emerged, containing, in fact, spilling over with infinite, inexpressible pain. Those eyes, even I had to look away. I won't say it was a riveting, iconic image to rival Edvard Munch's The Scream, but a Time Out review of my first solo show for a decade did say exactly that, so I admit, I was pretty happy. Or I would have been if I hadn't been banging down ravens like they were licorice all sorts in an attempt to maintain the fragile link with my tragic muse. And more importantly, create work to fill a room in a new headlining exhibition of dark art at the Saatchi Gallery. Those were the blissful, tormented days, the honeymoon / bitter divorce period, if you like, when the lows were profound, brutal, and pure. The lacerating emotion, intense and uncontaminated. Obviously, Zora and I started sleeping together. After a while, gazing into the abyss makes you weirdly horny, and besides, nobody else could stand to be around us. All of our middle-class, 30-something, irony-saturated, kitschy Etsy friends from art school, who are now the heads of creative at PR agencies and video production leads on M&S food adverts and best-selling watercolorists of the Cornish coast backed off so fast we could see the smoke. They'd all made deals with their demons years ago and didn't want to be reminded of whatever they used to believe so passionately about art and truth and meaning and all the other abstract nouns. Oh, they blathered smugly about mellowing and finding balance and gaining perspective. But all that really meant was they'd lost their edge, their agony, in fact. Zora and I didn't care. The last time those guys had ever felt true terror or anguish was when Waitrose ran out of 3-ply toilet paper during lockdown. Who needed them when everything we touched turned to raven dark, soul-searing gold? We laughed and wept, tripped and fucked, screamed and scrawled, and made art all day, every day, squelching every sunny, optimistic resurfacing, the agony equivalent of a come down, with more of the little black pills. Our work reflected and commented on each other's as well. Zora would create a handprint collage of a baby's face using her menstrual blood as a protest against societal pressure to reproduce. So I would riposte by setting canvas on fire and beating out the flames with my naked body as a comment on the suffering required to make art. Yeah, on reflection, I probably could have shaved more of my body hair before that one, but the Guggenheim bought it, so I'm not gonna complain. The batch that Zora had somehow scored was the original and best. The sheer, heady, abysmal plunge, the essence of angst cooked up in a mothballed pharmaceutical factory outside Bremen or somewhere. The Germans always have the purest stuff, clearly. But like the second summer of love, our long low couldn't last. There's only so much you can scrape the barrel of hurt before you come up empty, and not in a good way. Zora's stash of ravens petered out, and when the next consignment proved to be barely enough to make us hide the knives, so did our affair. Until now. I knew you were holding out on me, I tell her as we reach the top of the stairs. She's kept enough aside for creative emergencies, that's for sure. Her studio's filled with the newly finished work. Wrenching, disturbing, unnerving images I can hardly bear to look at. Mostly because I'm boiling with envy and resentment, which are the first delectable negative emotions I have felt in months, thanks to her. Some lovers are destroyed by sex or violence or madness or betrayal or even success. But Zora went one better than that. My extended holiday in my own pain with no further access to agony left me in such a state of permanent, mild cheerfulness, which is the exact opposite of the emotional conditions required to produce lasting and meaningful art. These days, I'm only fit to work in a call center or possibly a harvester. Anywhere where relentless chirpiness is the norm. The thought of it makes me want to throw myself off a bridge. Or would, if all my self-destructive impulses hadn't been exhausted by our months-long emo bender. Because Zora's little black pills have used up all my capacity for anguish. Every time I have a gloomy thought about the state of society, the environment, or even my own career, it inexorably slides into cautious optimism. The tipping point was the day I caught myself saying breezily, sure it'll be all right, and meaning it. And I wasn't talking about the weather. No. I was talking about humanity. Zora turns to me and shrugs helplessly. I'm sorry, Taylor, she says in a quiet voice. But I'm glad you came. God, she's still beautiful, even if she is a selfish, pain-draining monster. And her work is, well, it's agony. Agony to conceive, agony to paint, agony to look at. Profundity comes off of it in waves. It absolutely stinks of significance. But comfortably numb as I am, I can't even appreciate it anymore. And it's killing me. Listen, I say, if you've got any left, whatever you want from it, just ask. I'll literally give you anything. I just need to feel bad again. Even once. The look on her face is half wicked, half sorrowful. Tay, she says, all I've want's your company, babe. All these months, all these paintings, it's not the same without you. That's why I was saving these. She opens her hand to show me the little black pills resting in her palm. I take one and hold her gaze as her eyes widen and her lips open. See you at the bottom, she says. I smile. I hate you, I tell her. I know, she grins.